TOA, Fit Body Forever and Fit Body Bootcamp communities. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am Robert Linkul, owner of TOA, Training the Older Adult, and the Director of Education for Fit Body Bootcamp. We are going to talk about an article. A friend of mine, shout out Cindy, Y5, sent this over to me, and she goes, "What are your thoughts?" And I started to look at this. Some facts based on the most recent research in science suggest you don't have to lift heavy weights to get stronger, I think is where that goes to. Okay, to get great results, it says. And so I click on this, and it brings me over to WebMD, where it shows, number one, check out these awesome dumbbells. We have a 3-pounder and a 2-pounder and a 1-pounder. So obviously, we're setting a precedent here right away. And this is where, because it's on WebMD, people are going to look at this and go, "See, I told you so." And this is the stuff that starts to bother me because this is not what it seems. And we are going to poke some holes in their quote-unquote expert that they have in this. So, so then you click on the page, and here it comes, okay? Building strength without heavy weights. Here's how. So we're going to look into this, and it takes you over to this article here. And they basically start to suggest that you don't need to, based on the world of Instagram, and there's all this stuff out here, your Insta trainers and all this, there's tons of information out there. But all the Instagrammer experts, they all say you got to lift heavy load all the time. It's got to be near 100% of your 1 rep max to get any results and yada, yada. And so now, based on this science from this expert, this shows that you can lift lighter weights and get the exact same results, if not better, as some of the cited resources. And so this is one of the articles that they referenced, and I was looking on here, and I go, I recognize one of these names a little bit. This guy right here, Brad J. Schoenfeld. I don't know this guy. I've never really heard of him. I mean, I think I've seen his name like once or twice, and he's only been mentioned like, 223,000 times or something like that in an article like this. And so, what kind of expert could we really be talking about here? I'm sure he's this huge bodybuilder who's got like just a lame website and hasn't really written any books or anything that I could reference. So he's written a couple of books, 20 of them. And I think he may have been referenced internationally on some of his research articles like 500,000 times. But I mean, that doesn't mean anything. In a comparison to me, let's just take a look here. In a comparison to me, Brad is well known and internationally recognized as, kind of like the godfather of hypertrophy training. And me, on the other hand, I just specialize in training older adults. I think this is hilarious. So anyhow, Brad gives his advice, and I wish I could speak to Brad a little bit more, man to man. I think we could have a really good debate here because I think I've got some things to suggest that he might, find some of the things that I do rather interesting. Brad, he posted about me once, 2017, teaching people about small group training for years. Oh, the social aspect. Oh, that's cool. That was nice. Yeah, look at that. Been shared out a couple of times. As now that I think of it, I think I have been to an event or two with him. I think in the NSCA, he won the Personal Trainer of the Year in 2011, and I won it in 2012. So, I mean, we're practically even when it comes to international awards and recognitions. I did have breakfast with him once. Now it's coming back to me now. Yep, I think I do know him. I think I've had a couple of meals with him. I know for sure, I have never spoken to him online. Well, I did present to his class a couple of times. I've never met him in person, though, that's for sure. A face-to-face discussion would be really... I did meet him, and that's right. We did have a really good interview once that was pretty popular. I'm obviously teasing. Brad is a friend of mine, the best researcher, and one of the to call him the godfather of hypertrophy is absolutely accurate. The guy does a ton of research. He's done a ton for our industry. And I just spent 3 minutes of your life pretending to harass him and give him a hard time. But he really is a vast knowledge and resource of hypertrophy, resistance training, etc. And I think this article, in all seriousness, has misconstrued and kind of bent some of his words a little bit to fit the narrative that they wanted. He never said, use really light weights like pink dumbbells that are 3 pounds, and you're going to get the same results that you get over here if you using heavier loads. If you go through the article, he talks about using submaximal loads. So not 100% of your one rep, not 90% of your one rep. Maybe you use like 60% of your one rep max and you do 30 repetitions. But at the same time, you hear, oh, so lighter load, higher reps. Well, there you go. That's way safer. Not always. And are you going to get the same results? Not unless when you get to 29, 28, 29, 30, if you're not near maximal effort at that point, meaning like maybe I could do 1 or 2 more, you're not going to stress the musculature enough to have the bone density response, the muscular response, the hypertrophied response that you want to build bigger muscles or stronger muscles or more dense bones. So to me, this is a way to kind of manipulate the terminology and some of the things that he said to fit the narrative. Like, see, we told you, you don't have to lift heavy weights all the time. You do. You need to lift heavier loads. That's the whole idea of progressive resistance, we've talked about this to nauseum on my channel here, of what the SAID principle is. It's a specific adaptation to an imposed demand, SAID. What is the imposed demand? The heavier load, the overload that you can't lift comfortably without a struggle, okay? So if I'm doing a bicep curl and I grab 2 pounds and I do 50, curling 50, and you're like, can you do 10 more? I'm like, oh yeah, and you do 10 more. Okay, I can do 100 of these. At no point am I going to get a huge response of torn muscle fiber, good torn muscle fiber, little microfiber tears that actually help stimulate the new growth of the musculature. And at the same time, I'm not placing enough stress onto the muscles to pull on the bone to make the bone go, man, if this is a new stressor we're going to have to deal with all the time, we need to throw down more bone here and get our bones more dense. That's where the consistency of this new imposed demand every other day, all the time, with progressions on that, will begin to create a specific adaptation. That's the SA in SAID. So you're applying an imposed demand, heavier weight, and then the specific adaptation is stronger bones, more dense muscle fibers, stronger binding sites, and or more binding sites to then either create a bigger bicep or a stronger one. So you can't simulate that with 3 pounds and go, oh, I'm going to do 5 seconds up and 5 seconds down. I'm going to do that for a set of 10. And, that gives me the same effort that if I were going to do 20 pounds for a set of 30, that's the same. If I was going to do 100 pounds for a set of 3, that's the same. It isn't the same. These are 3 different variations of styles of training, and there's plenty of research to suggest that you're going to probably experience an injury of overuse by doing these lighter loads at higher repetitions. In high volume training like that, our concern too is that you're now using a load that you can perform high repetitions, and with every rep that you have, if you're not absolutely focused and engaged in what you're doing and mind to muscle connection, it's just another opportunity to potentially do something wrong. And that can be said for anything, right? Like any exercise that we're going to go and do. And so this is an interesting discussion. I didn't talk about this yet. This is my buddy Andrew Coates. Awesome dude. I was on his podcast. He just put this out like a day ago, his interview with Brad. And within the first, I think it was a minute 40 in, they immediately started to talk about this. And so Brad wrote an article, I want to say back in 2011, that discussed the world of bodybuilding has always looked at. So here's the way that old school programming used to work. If you were going to do 1, 2, or 3 repetitions, it was with the heaviest loads that you could handle And those loads were typically done for sport of Olympic lifting and powerlifting. Powerlifting, obviously, you're doing one bench press, one deadlift, and one back squat for the maximal load that you can do. And then at the end, they add them all together, and the winner has the highest total. In Olympic lifting, same thing. You get 3 attempts to lift the heaviest load once, the snatch and the clean and jerk. And so those two sports really work in singles, doubles, triples, maybe up to like 4 or 5 reps. Anything else is quote unquote cardio, according to a power lifter or Olympic lifter. Okay. Shout out Gump cardio. She's like, sets of 10. Oh man, this is exhausting. So welcome to the world of not being an Olympic lifter. We're doing some higher reps. So then you get into bodybuilding, and the bodybuilders would target 6 to 12, 6 to 15 reps. And then anything over 15, you're now in the cardio zone, and there isn't going to be a good hypertrophy-based response. You're just going to endure your muscles really, really well. They'll get good at doing turnover over and over and over again, and with, a moderate to light load. But if you're in that 6 to 12 zone, well, that's the ideal hypertrophy range. And along with a large, vast population of the community, in 2007, 8, 9, 10, this cross style of fitness developed out there, and you started to see individuals doing cleans and snatches and jerks and deadlifts and bench press and back squats for sets of 10, 20, 30 even, 50 even sometimes, where they're chipping away at 50 clean and jerks or 50 snatches. And so all of a sudden you're like, well, that's not a maximal load. This is submaximal. It's got to be quite a bit lighter. But there's something to this, because these individuals, they're not only building like really good muscular endurance, but they're all getting bigger. Like they are building more muscle mass. So what's the difference here with this cross style of fitness that is allowing them to still produce a high hypertrophy-based response and build some bigger musculatures? But at the same time, they're not using single and double and triple loads of 195 to 100% of their 1 rep maximum. They're using vastly submaximal loads, 50, 60%, but they're doing this high tempo. Chippers are basically, if you have 100 of something or 50, let's say 50 snatches to do, and you give somebody 60 kilos, 132 pounds, they can do 8 or 10, and then they drop the bar and they huff and puff for 10, 15 seconds, and they do another set of 8. And so now we're at, 16 to 20, somewhere in 16 to 18. And then they do another set of 8, and you're like, okay, now we're at like 24. And then they do 5, and then you're like, okay, we're at 29. And then they do 5 more, and you're all right, we're at 34. And they just keep chipping like you're chopping a tree down. They chip until you're doing 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 50. I got 50. And so now you've finished using a fairly heavy load, but it wasn't a 20 kilo, 44 pound bar that you could just do 50 straight with. That's not enough load to produce a response. But you don't need to do 50 singles with your absolute maximum heavy load. That would take forever, and it would be super dangerous. So there's somewhere right in the middle where this cross style of fitness really found this sweet spot to still build a hypertrophy-based response, but also build in some cardiovascular response to have some really well-endured musculature. So now you're creating some pretty athletic individuals that can do these exceptional lifts at higher repetition volumes with like a higher repetition volume. So we're kind of hitting all aspects of this, and this is producing a good result. Where this cross style of fitness started to get a bad rap is people trying to do these lifts as fast as possible and sacrificing technique. And that's where things start to break down, because then you start seeing the ugliest lifts. And you're like, well, there's a joke in our industry that says, do you know who invented this cross style of fitness? Physical therapists, right? Because they wanted job security. I've also heard that joke for pickleball, because there's a lot of injuries coming down the pipeline here from pickleball. Though very fun. I'm not knocking it. It's fun. I love it. Keegan and I are pickleball champions in our circle around here that we've played exactly once. But we won. So, I mean, hey, all I needed was one victory, right? One glimpse at glory, and I snatched it from the jaws of defeat. Champions, we are the... You get it. Pickleball is super fun. But if you're not running forward and back, doing lateral slides and skips and reaching and turn. You're going to blow an Achilles. You're going to rupture your ACL. You're going to tear a quad or a hamstring. Like you can't, I mean, you can not do shit for 50 years of your life and then just go, I was a pretty good athlete in high school 30 years ago. I'm just going to go out there and get back into the field. I suggest you start resistance training first and then start doing some really light, calisthenics / super light plyometrics like lateral skips and slides and just A's and B's and just get your Achilles and your feet used to moving a little bit faster than walking and gradually over a couple of months build into doing some dynamic stuff. So when you go to play pickleball, you're ready. Like, why do I have people, number one, on this treadmill that's obnoxiously right in the middle of the room, but I'm cleaning some stuff. And why do we have the tank? Why do we do sprints and simulated sprints on the tank, on a treadmill with our clients? Because we want them to be able to have this turnover, this dynamic, explosive response when they need it without hurting themselves. So if we train it, we'll maintain it. If you don't train it, you're going to get hurt, man. Injury rates are very, very high for that. So you don't just roll the dice and just be like, I've heard pickleball is fun. I'm going to go get into it. You're going to get hurt. 9 times out of 10, you are going to get hurt. But if you train even just a little bit, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. So Brad talks about this, not that whole pickleball thing, but all the volume. He talks about the 1 to 5s power Olympic lifter, the 6 to 12 bodybuilder, and then the 15 plus your cross style of fitness and your higher intensity endurance athletes should be doing all that kind of stuff. And what he found throughout his research here, and he credits another researcher in Canada and a couple of, if you'd listen to it, like minute 140 and then minute 10, somewhere around in there, he kind of comes back and he starts talking about that a little bit more. He discusses the research as they started to find higher volume repetition work sets produce good results if the load on effort is matching. Meaning, if I give you 10 pounds and you're gonna bicep curl it, and on your 10th rep, I ask you, okay, you're done. Out of 10, how hard was that? And you said, that was about an 8 out of 10. I could have done like 3 or 4 more, but that's as much as I could have done. That was about an 8 on my effort of 1 to 10. I need that 8 effort, even if it's 30 reps. So when you get to your 30th rep, if I give you like 5-pound dumbbells now, and you're like 28, 29, 30, and you set them down and I go, score it now. And you're like, that was about an 8. I probably could have done like 4 or 5 more. That's an appropriate challenging load. It's still like a 7 or an 8 on the effort scale, even though you've done 30 reps now. So we're ending with the same perceived effort on your end, an 8, if I did 10 reps or if I did 30 reps. Where this becomes problematic and where I think they've kind of abused this title and these findings a little bit is they go, well, you could just use these 1 or 2 pound dumbbells and do 30 reps and see, you're going to get this great response. And you won't, man. You really won't. Your body needs an imposed demand. It's got to be a struggle, a stimulus. And I don't care if it's for 30 reps or if it's for 5 reps. It's got to be a challenge. It's got to be a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or a 10. It's got to be in that latter end of the RPE, the rate of perceived exertion. It's got to be somewhere around 70% of your maximal effort or higher, or else you're just not going to get a great response. So someone like myself, I've had back surgery. I've had hernia repairs. I've had 6 surgeries on my hips, including 2 hip replacements. 1 that failed, had to have a full revision. So 3 hip replacements that I've had. My 200 plus pound deadlifts and back squat days are well behind me. Don't do it anymore. However, I'm able to maintain, if not actually grow, my legs and my glutes and build some hypertrophy response because I'm not lifting the 100 to 90% of my 1 rep maximum 1 or 2 or 3 times. I'm doing 130 pounds for sets of 15, sets of 20. I'm getting to a point where I'm still lifting a moderately heavy load for me, right? I mean, if you look at like my all-time best, I did 500 pounds, I think, on a deadlift or 550, something like that. So 130 pounds is not great. You're looking at like 20% of your maximal effort. Well, that was a one-time effort, once. So if I take this 20%, 135 pounds, and I'm able to manipulate sets of 15 or 20 with it, the end perceived effort for 20 reps when I get there is about like 80% and 8 out of 10. I've now achieved a high stress stimulus without having to manipulate such a heavy load that my joints can no longer handle. And why did I have to give hip replacements and all that? Oh, because of all that heavy lifting. No, because of all that heavy lifting that I did with poor technique. There are plenty of people out there who have lifted heavy weights the majority of their life, and they've got some wear and tear, and they've probably got some arthritis, but their bones are dense as shit. They've got great musculature, and they continue to train today, and they're fine. I did not have a coach. I did not have someone watching me. We didn't have cell phones with cameras on them. My camera was shoulder held, mounted with a VHS in it, that every time I recorded over it, it got a little worse, right? So at some point, I have the most grainy, terrible film footage of me lifting. And at the same time, I'm like, I guess that's good. I don't know. I'm learning from Arnold's Encyclopedia, a book. And I'm like, I guess I look like that. I mean, that's when you don't know what you don't know what to look at and go, oh, I'm winking my butt. Or every time I try to deadlift, my hips are hurting. I just took it as I'm weak here. This is a stimulus. I have to overtrain to be able to not be weak anymore. And at the time, what I was doing was just ripping the living shit out of my hip joints to the point where I wore away both labrums, completely gone. When they went in to surgically repair them, they're like, there's no labrum here. It is gone. You have worn your way through your labrum to the point where you're bone on bone, and the bone is so porous, it cheese grated. It just cheese grated up your entire labrum. It's gone. There was nothing left. Both hips. And they're like, no wonder you can't sit down or stand up or squat or do anything without extreme pain. Because I did not know any better. And I just kept pushing forward. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not as good as all these guys. If I want to compete, I've got to do double whatever they're doing. So I would sit and I would listen. And they're like, I squat twice a week. And I'm like, I'm going to squat 4 days a week then. I take 30 throws in a practice. I'm going to take 60 throws in a practice. I put in 30 years of training on my body in like 10. And I just destroyed it. I destroyed my back. I destroyed my hips. Granted, knock on wood, my knees are still good. My shoulders are torn up. Like I did damage to my body, not because of resistance training, because of resistance training poorly. When you don't have a coach to watch you and teach you how to do things right and tell you this is too heavy, you're rounding your back. We need to put some bumper plates under this weight because you can't get to the ground without rounding your back or tucking your butt. And you just keep loading it up. Coach said, go heavier. Coach said, go heavier. I got to get stronger. My discus coach was a big fan of us lifting well and all that, but he wasn't with us in the weight room. We just didn't have the schedule for that. And so I paid the price. And ultimately it brought me to where I am now, to where I can sit and kind of, soapbox about this with all of you and discuss like, yeah, I don't want you to get hurt. So right away, your mind goes to, let's use lighter load and let's not hurt ourselves. But we still need a result. We need something to go, this training session, these sets produced a result. And if I didn't push myself to a 7 or an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on some of these, you're not going to produce a result. You're basically just going to move through ranges of motion and maybe maintain what you have, but you're not going to gain anything. The pink M&M colored dumbbells that they joke about in this, all the comments were like, no, I want M&Ms. They all saw that photo and everyone's like, this one right here. They're all like, oh, it reminds me of M&Ms. All the comments in the section, it was hilarious. And so many people commenting in there, see, we told you we didn't have to lift heavy weights, right? And there were like 2 people trying to combat all these folks of like, you're not going to get enough stimulus to grow new muscle. You're not going to get enough stimulus to improve your bone density. And the mom just jumped all over him. Oh yeah, read the ad. Listen to what Brad says. Here's what Brad says. Okay, in a nutshell, here's a really cool little infographic here that Brad. This is based off of that article that we just went through. And here's your continuum. Okay, from 0 to 6 reps, you're going to have a high training response, a massive strength gain, and then from 6 to 15. Using loads corresponding to 6 to 15 repetitions, where the last few repetitions are a challenge to complete. So that means an 8 or a 9 or a 10 out of 10 effort. So if you say my last one's going to be 6, when you hit rep 6, it should be like 6. I could go 7, 8, I'm done. I can't do another one. But at 6, you could stop there and go, that's like an 8 out of 10. That's a good training response. I could then do that again and then do it again and do it again. I could do that like 4 times. And those would be great work sets that you have in there where you're like, all right, these counted, they challenged me, but I didn't go to a maximal effort. I just got really close. You don't want to redline your engine. You just want to get it really close. And that's the idea here. So then we go, okay, well, I don't want to do sets of 6. I want to do sets of 15. Okay, well, same thing, okay? Same thing here. When I get to 14, 15, I could go 16, 17, 18, right? I could do 3 more, and then I'm like, I'm done. But when you get to 15, you're like, that was about an 8 out of 10. Same thing. Same thing if this 8 out of 10 on the 6 or an 8 out of 10 on the 15, either one, you're just using a little bit lighter load that may be a bit easier on your body to manipulate and not stress against, okay? But you still challenge yourself to the point where my last couple of reps, like this is all I can do. I can maybe do 2 more. I'm still going to get a really good response with that. So that's where the terminology of, yes, you can still get great results with lighter load, but not light loads. Lighter. Lighter is the key. Meaning 60, 70, 80% of your maximal efforts for some higher volumes at an 8 out of 10 effort. Like there's more to the discussion here. And I know someone will hear that and be like, what the hell? Like I don't have 20 minutes to sit and listen to this and try to describe this to my client. If you always look at RIR, reps in reserve of 2 to 4, I think you're in a safe zone. So that means if I get to number 10, curl, and I bring them down and I look at coach and coach goes, how many more can you do? And I'm like, maybe 2 to 4 more. Then that's a really good place to stop. If you can do 2 to maybe 4 more, if you have 2 to 4 reps in reserve, that's a good safe spot to lift and you're still getting enough stimulus. But if you're like, I could do 10 more, keep going. You're not done. You haven't produced enough of a stimulus. You haven't challenged your muscles enough to change. We've got to find that. That's what Brad is saying here, is that you have to find enough of a stressed load to where when you're close to the end, you only have a couple of reps left in reserve. And so you can see this with, on here, they talk about the leg press and upper body pulls and upper body pushes, bench press, pull-ups, etc. Right? You can use machines. You could use kettlebells. It doesn't matter what implements you use. What matters is the load matching effort? And the key to this whole thing is how much effort are you putting in? And by effort, we mean it to the truest of its word, of its definition, where you could just sit here and go, I could do this 100 times all day with 3-pound dumbbells. And you're like, I'm putting in an effort. No, you're just moving, right? It's a effort. But what we mean is you need to put in enough of an effort where it's matching, it's hitting that peak cross fitness style of training that is going to be able to go, okay, I can do some more volume, some more reps. I can go higher in this because I don't want to have to manipulate such a heavy load. But it's still going to be damn hard when I kind of find that it's not high-end reps, it's not high-end load, it's right in the middle, and both are pretty damn challenging. I put in great effort now. And that's when your muscles are going to go, bro, if we're going to do this every other day, we need some more binding sites. Hey, Acton, what's up, Myosin? Yo, bro, let's hang out more often. It's going to be one of these Brofest moments where we need more bros, right? We need more bros, bro. We need more fist pumpers, right? We need more. So bring them in. Acton, Myosin, good to meet you. Here's our binding site. Oh, we need one more of those. We need one more of those. We need one more of those. That's how your muscles get bigger. Or you've used enough stress, enough load in here where that binding site is like, hey, nice to meet you, right? Like a finger grip. And you're like, oh, let's get a little stronger binding site. Let's get a stronger binding site. Let's get a really strong binding site. We didn't have more binding sites. They just contract. The contractibility on that is a stronger grip of the handshake. We didn't add more hands to your handshake. All of a sudden, it just got firmer. Someone's like, ouch, dude, take it easy. And you're like, sorry, bro, been lifting, right? That's the idea. Like your hands don't get bigger when you do a lot of good grip strength stuff. They just get a stronger binding site. And that's how we increase our muscle density then. And so that's how someone can get stronger without getting bigger necessarily, where you have strength training and then you have hypertrophy training. There is a difference. And in most cases, if you're training for hypertrophy, you're going to get stronger. And in most cases, if you're strength training, your muscles are probably going to grow a little bit. But there is a way to kind of maximize each of those. That's where things get much deeper, but we'll kind of stop here to let everybody recognize there's still a deal of effort that needs to be achieved. And that should be somewhere in the scoring range on 1 to 10. 10 being I cannot do another. 1 being easiest thing I've ever done with weight in my hand. 2, a 7, 8 range. That's where we're targeting. A 7 or an 8 out of 10 with every working set. That means non-warm-up sets. You can have plenty of warm-up sets at 20 and 40 and 60. And now working sets, okay, here we go. I need 3 or 4 sets at an 8, a 7 or an 8 RPE, or 2 to 4 reps in reserve. However you want to think of it is fine by me. If I just confused you and just made things worse, when you're lifting and you get done, if you think I could have done 2 more, then you're in the right range. If you think I could have done 10 more, go heavier. You should have 2 to 4 reps in reserve at the end of every set that you do. That's a very safe place to be right now. And train there for a while. If you need more direction, more instruction, then go get it. Go get it, hire a coach, get somebody to help you out, because that's important. It's important to learn how to do this. So massive shout out to Brad, all the amazing textbooks, all the research, everything he's doing. Big shout out to Andrew. I love the podcast. He just launched this not too long ago. So go over there, check him out, subscribe, get going, lift free, diet hard. I love it. He's awesome. And these are just 2 salts of the earth when it comes to fantastic individuals, great guys, great coaches, and having a major impact on our industry to help elevate levels of education and the styles in which we train. We want every effort that you put out, there's that word again, effort, to be worth it. So you don't just go to the gym and spin your wheels, right? Treading is exercise, but you're not progressing. You're not going anywhere, right? I want you swimming upriver. And swimming upriver is hard, but it produces really good results. Don't just tread. Advance. Move forward. Make decisions here with load in hand. They're going to make you better. We need your bones more dense. That way they don't break if you do fall down. And statistically, every couple of years, every 3 to 5 years over age 50, that jumps up about 10% that you're going to have a risk of falling. I mean, it's going to happen no matter how dynamic and how explosive and how balanced you are. Your body is going to start to age in some way. Now, we can do all kinds of stuff to help combat it, and that's what I'm here for. But ultimately, if you do fall down, I want you to survive that fall because your bones are real dense. And ideally, they're wrapped in a whole bunch of muscle mass that protect that bone from not breaking. You just get some bruises and you're sore and we move on. But if it does break and you have to have surgery, then you've got enough muscle mass to maintain your ability and you don't start to sink down into this hole of desperation known as the, it's coming to me. Hold on. On my sarcopenia chart. How am I blanking on this right now? It's let me find it. The disability threshold. Everybody at home, you're all yelling at me going, disability threshold, Rob. Yeah, I got it. You sent it to me. The disability threshold. That's where you're now at a point where you're dependent on a cane or a walker or other people to help you live and move about. You've now lost your independence. And that's our constant battle is to keep all of you independent. And if something like that does happen, you fall, you break this and that, you get back to your level of independence that you had because you've got enough muscle mass and ability to not just continue to sink deeper and deeper into that. So big shout out to Brad, big shout out to Andrew, everybody else out there doing such great work. I hope you enjoyed this, had fun with me, and go give both of those guys a follow. Check out the websites and their podcast. All right. I am Robert Linkul. I hope you enjoyed this. Any comments, questions, throw it in the section below. Feel free to share this out to anybody else you think could benefit from it. Until next time, please continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia, y'all, and we'll see you next time. Take care.